looking to the future is a tremendous task at the moment, I think. Almost impossible to see where we're going, and certainly more difficult now, I should think, to see where we're going than certainly since the war. I think Coventry faces two main problems, which I think are common to many cities, many urban areas in the country. Firstly, the problem of unemployment, and to that extent the City Council has been concerned over many years now to seek all solutions to that problem that are available. Quite recently they've reorganised, a major reorganisation of the City Council itself, to create a new Economic Development and Planning Committee, whose prime task is to try to find new sources of employment and to prevent existing sources of employment disappearing. And Harry Noble, who's been appointed to the director of a new department of Economic Development and Planning, his prime task is to follow any lead, follow all leads, to try to bring new jobs, more jobs, and protect existing jobs. And although that's a very daunting task, because everyone else in the country is trying to do exactly just the same, I am optimistic that we will be successful. We've been successful in facing this kind of challenge in the past. I think we've got the right type of background to solve our problems. We've proved that in the past, as we've heard this morning. I think we've got, very interestingly in Coventry, a very good relationship between officers and the council members, which doesn't exist in every city in the country. There is a close working relationship between the members of the political parties, both three types, and the actual council officers who work as a team to help to try and solve problems. But we do face difficulties in much as the country is divided into two economically, with the more prosperous south and the derelict areas in the north. What is going to happen when the Channel Tunnel is built, if it's built? Is that going to make that problem even worse? How do all these things fit in? Very difficult to say. But on economic development and employment, I'm reasonably optimistic that we will see a new dawn coming and that we will solve some of the problems. I think we've got to. Because it's linked to the second problem which the City Council faces, which is known as the inner city problem, or it's not really just the inner city, it's the socially deprived areas, to use the jargon, but it's mainly inner cities plus the estates we've talked about this morning, the Wood End and the Wood North and other areas where there's poverty and deprivation. And I think this has been evidenced in reports such as Faith in the City, the report to the Archbishop of Canterbury recently. There are major social problems to be solved, which link in very closely to what Terence Gregory has been talking about with the ethnic minorities. All these things are linked together, which these problems also have to be solved in the coming years. Because unless we can solve these major problems, then people aren't going to be happy, and they're not going to be satisfied with what we're doing, and they're going to look for other reasons, to other solutions, which perhaps we don't want to contemplate. But so what I'm really saying is that first of all, we've got to see what is the political reaction to these kind of problems, because that's where it starts from, and then see what flows from that. So it is difficult. If I say to you, when I first came into planning, we used to have a programme of 10 years development. We used to plan 10 years ahead, 3 years certain, 7 years possible. Nowadays, 1 year, no more, possibly 2 at most.
1 year certain?
1 year, well, 1 year certain, possibly two or three possible. Things are changing so fast, particularly in technology and so on, and social way, that it's very, very difficult to see more than 2 or 3 years ahead. I don't know whether my colleagues will agree with me on that, but I'll probably see what their views are.
Well, I think it's true to say that Coventry has always had the problem of a few very large employers. Many of them now multinational organisations, and they undertake their own rationalisations and developments or axing of various plants to suit their own worldwide or continental-wide interests. Therefore, Coventry is always partly at risk in the terms of it can't foresee it, it's in the hands of international finance. On the other hand, we know that amongst those big companies there is a lot of expertise, and we depend on them because a lot of them are in forward-looking industries. We depend on them to continue to be entrepreneurs, to be inventing and developing. We are lucky that over the last 20 years we've further developed local centres of excellence, particularly the Polytechnic, the university, health in Walsgrave and so on. And one can hope for spin-offs for those experts. We talked to the university over many years, but more particularly probably from 1979-80, in closer communication to say, which is your way forward, how can we work together? One of the joys of Coventry is that the main elements of the community will communicate. And when we, in the depths of unemployment, were making representations to government effectively to give us some assistance, which we'd not had. They still thought we were in the times of boom employment, and it took them years to understand the change. But at least we were able to go jointly, City Council, Chamber of Commerce, Warwickshire, Community Relations Council, local big employers, to speak jointly. And hopefully this will continue. Centres of excellence like the Science Park, biotechnology, this kind of thing. We must pin some of our hopes in those, but those, many of them again, depend for either national or international investment in order that what might be discoveries can be developed. I agree entirely what's been said about rapid change. It's very difficult to look more than about 3 years ahead, 1 year certain. And that is the kind of review that the City Council has now dropped back to from 10 years, then 5 years, and then less. In other words, there has to be all the while alertness to opportunity and challenge and problem, knowing that Coventry is in open competition, and therefore we must effectively exploit what are the advantages we have. And we have a lot of advantages in skills, in research and in accessibility. And one hopes this will continue.
It's very, very true actually, but Coventry has always managed, because it's not the first time that we've been sort of at the end of an era of manufacturing this, that or the other. And that's, in the old days I think it was the sewing machine or the looms or this, that and the other, and they came with the bicycle and the car and the motorbike and so on. If all those things are going, I mean, in the meantime, you see, Courtauls came along. But it's a great pity, you see, now that all that business, Courtauls, is sort of winding down. And that is one of the advantages of having been a city councillor. One is able to see a lot of these things. It was pathetic when I went into Alfred Herbert's and saw what was once thriving, one of the foremost machine tool places in the world, empty. And that was being taken over by the children making all these various things. It was good to see the work that they were doing. Very, very good. I think the education department have been magnificent in turning over and getting these children interested in being able to do all these things. It's been quite terrific. But I'm sure that new industries will come along, as they always have done. They're bound to.
And if they don't?
But, well, we've got to start to get other interests. I came here from Nottingham, and Nottingham we had a river which came at a big interest for people, entertained them, and we had a cricket team, a very good cricket team. They haven't got that in Coventry.
Everybody should play cricket.
They haven't got it, you see. So if we could really get something like that to bring people in. And also I noticed that different towns have differing ways of people living. In Nottingham I noticed that people tend to go towards the centre. In Coventry people go out. They don't come into the centre to sort of do their, you know, their thing, as one might say. In all my life we've been out, we've been going to Stratford, we've been going to Leamington, we've been going to all the surrounding places. I never dreamt of doing that in Nottingham. Amazing.
If you were younger, Gwyn, you'd go to the leisure centre.
Yes, but it's quite
It's the
terrific.
growth in the leisure industry you're talking about, basically.
Yes, I think it is. I think it is. But other
Where the
industries are
money
bound
comes
to
from to pay
come.
for it, you know.
I think other industries will come. They're bound to.
But in present social and economic circumstances, it's absolutely vital that we have youth facilities. Because if one doesn't provide that, then there can be social difficulties and disruption.
Yeah. Now I was rather wondering, about Bernard was talking about no vandalism. Well, there again, you see, my job sort of takes me into the town at night, and I think really, pardon?
What is your job, sorry?
No, being on these various committees and things, you see, council committees and so on, that meant we probably had to go to civic groups and that sort of thing, which meant going into the town about 10 o'clock-ish, 10:30, and so on. And quite honestly, it is quite frightening to walk across that place. And one didn't say anything or do anything about it, but there was a gang of about 7 or 8 youths. And I think, I don't know what they'd been doing, I can only think they'd been getting some tankards or something out of the pubs, which they were getting out of their blouses, and they were throwing them. Goodness alone knows what they were doing, but these things were going and bashing and breaking things up. And I've also seen other lads throwing stones across the square. How they can propel these stones at such a rate, I just don't know.
And this is not peculiar to Coventry.
No.
I don't suppose it
Nearly
is.
all the big cities
But it's frightening.
have this
It's
problem.
frightening
I agree.
to see it
I agree.
happening.
Yeah.
And one daren't do
Yes.
anything.
So it's very much a problem for sort of women as well, sort of especially if they're by themselves going out. I know some
Yeah.
women friends of mine who just don't like to go out at night at all without a sort of a chaperone now.
But that applies in town and country.
Yes, yeah, yes.
The point I was really making was it's not peculiar to Coventry. Coventry is really no worse than many of these cities.
Absolutely.
I've been in London and walked through there late at night in various parts of London, and you get the same feeling, mainly because either there's no one about or there's a few people about at the right time. So you know, I don't think Coventry's any worse.
No.
I think what concerns me is that I think sometimes the press overemphasises this side of life. And people then, it's self-reading, isn't it? You know.
Well, yes, it is a sensational story.
Yes.
It gives a headline and
Yes.
they're reporting
Yes.
fact, and that's it. But it takes the headline.
Yes. Yes.
But I mean, I've been to Rotterdam recently, and was amazed to see the litter and graffiti there, far worse than anything here at all. So again, it's international.
Yes.
I think I'll have to cut because we want to have some tape.
Anyway, yes, it's been really interesting.